Good afternoon, boys and girls. Welcome to another lesson with me, Coach Matt. Guys, just remember to please mute your microphones just so that there are no disturbances. If you want to say anything, feel free to type into the Zoom or the Lichess, whichever is going to work, or whichever is going to be easiest for you, rather. All right, so guys, I hope you're all having a fantastic week. I hope you're all practicing your chess. And I hope you guys have been doing that program. I haven't received any sort of questions or queries about that, but I hope that it's going well with you guys. Okay, so as usual, I'd like to start off with some mate in ones, just to get those brains firing. I don't see anybody in the Lichess, which is a little strange. Guys, remember Lichess, lichess.org, that's where the study is. It is a public study. Just confirm that, yes. So you guys should be able to see it. If you are struggling, just remember to search for probably what you see here will be the easiest. But otherwise, Coach Matt's THLF, Trinity Hustle Falls, will be easy enough for you to do that. Junior chess practice. Just search that in the studies option, which you'll find lichess.org, then under learn, then you go study. And then you'll find it over there. Otherwise, that's why we share the screen, just so we can record it so that others can see it as well, and that you guys can see it at the same time. So, I mean, you can always just watch it here. I just thought it makes more sense if you guys are able to access the study. That way, you can revisit it whenever it suits you. You want to go through something, you miss something, you're like, no, that didn't quite make sense with me. You can go back and look at it again, maybe with a friend or mom and dad. Someone can help you out with it. You'll work it out a little bit later. All right. White to play, checkmate in one. Guys, as always, I'm encouraging as much participation as possible. Don't worry if you get a couple wrong answers. It's all good. Practice makes perfect, okay? So white is looking to checkmate black in one move. Let's see who can come up with it. Looks like no one's on the Lichess chat. So there we go. We've already got someone in the Zoom chat. That's good. Keep those chats firing. Rico has come up with a good move. I'm not going to share that move with anybody just yet. Let's see who else can come in and see who else can come up with some good moves. Thank you for that. Nice and sharp from Rico on the ball. What about the rest of you guys? Come on. Let's get involved. So I want you looking for all possible checks. You know the drill. You've got to look, where can I attack this black king? Where can I check this king? What can I do? That should always be something that you are thinking about. All possible checks, all possible takes. Remember, guys, if you get it wrong, it's not the end of the world. At least you'll learn something. Like I've said previously, excuse me, you rather get involved, get it wrong, than just sit and stare at the screen. Otherwise, you probably won't retain it nearly as effectively.
Yeah.
Just remember to keep those microphones muted. Thank you.
What are you supposed to type? Oh, yeah.
In the Zoom chat is where you can type. Just keep that microphone muted, please. So you go chat, and then you can choose to whom you chat. You can either chat to me, or you can chat to everybody. It's up to you. All right, so, all right, I want to move on. I don't want to sit on this one example for too much longer. So we've already had, just at first glance, we've had two possible checks here, as far as I can see. We've got queen b7 check. We've got queen g2 check. It looks like, oh, I've completely overlooked this queen b8 as well. Not that it's a very good move. You need to investigate all checks, though. That is the rule. So queen b8, of course, not very good. The rook just takes you. Queen g2, not bad. We're checking the king along the diagonal. Not Not a bad move at all. It does look like the king will be able to move to both b8 and a7 if you do play queen g2. So it's not mate in one, but maybe it's going to be mate in two. We'll investigate that in just a moment's time. And queen b7, which was Rico's move straight away. Queen b7 does deliver the mate. Let's take a look at it. How do we know that it's checkmate? Well, guys, the definition of checkmate means he's in check and he cannot escape the check. He cannot get out of the check. So he can't go here. He can't go here. He also can't take the queen because the pawn is protecting. So by definition, he'd be moving into check, which we know he's not allowed to do. So that's that. That's pretty much it. Just to go back a sec and talk about this queen g2 move. Pretty cool because the idea is from g2, I'm going to go to b7 in any case. So it doesn't really matter whether the king goes to a7 or to b8. I'm still going to mate you on b7. So quite, it's just a slightly slower method. We can see that queen b7 is the key move here, and that will do the job. So one thing I wanted to do today as well is to flip things around. So what I'm going to do here, swap it around. So now suddenly you're like, what has he done? Oh, he's given us the black pieces. Yes, that's what he's done. White is threatening queen b7 mate. So we're just going to make a move for white. Any move will really do. And let's say now we've got the black pieces. And we need to prevent this move. What move can black play to prevent the mate in one? So now we know what's coming. I mean, we've already discussed it. We've addressed it. But how do we prevent it? Same kind of thing. Get involved. Type something in the chat. Say, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that. It's always a good idea to see if you can defend the square first and foremost. That'd be the first thing I'd want to look at. Can I protect the square? Can I do something that if the queen's going to come here, then I'm going to take the queen? Let's see what we can come up with. Okay, good answer from Rico. Let's see what else, who else can come up with the goods. Looks like a couple ways that I can defend this square. Okay, good. Another way. That's nice. Come on, the rest of you. There seems like some good participation here, but no one's saying anything. Let's get involved. Any ideas as to how we can protect the square? Okay, you know what? I'll help you with this one. Maybe on the next one. Hey, we'll just have to see if maybe that will help you guys. You'll be able to solve, help me solve the next ones. Okay, so if this is the move we're trying to prevent, we had rook b8 and rook c7 as suggestions from Rico. Let's check rook b8 out. I think that's the best move black can play because we're also attacking, which is a good thing. So we're attacking the white queen and we are covering the square. So if they go queen b7, obviously I'm just going to take it. Probably looks like it'll be a draw. Pawn takes and king takes b7. Two kings, we know it's a draw. It's not stalemate. Let's just clarify that. I hear that quite a bit. Stalemate, remember, is when the king cannot move. This is just two kings left over. No one can win the game because there's not enough, pieces. I was going to say material. There's not enough material in order to checkmate the opposition king. Okay, let's move on, guys. Black to play checkmate in one move. So it's again a mate in one. These are really good exercises for you guys because it helps you to stay sharp, to hone your skills, and most importantly, to take advantage of opportunities that might present themselves on the chessboard. So you never know when an opportunity might arise, and you want to be ready and able to take advantage of that. So guys, all possible checks, all possible takes. Have a good look. See what you can find. We have a nice solution already from Rico. Not bad. Very nice. It looks to be not that many checks in this position, so it shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. I can see 1, 2, 3 checks. 3 possible checks in this position. One of them is the right one. Yeah, so another solution there that we've got potentially. So let's see, we've got rook b1 check. Let's call that number 1. We've got d2 check. Let's call that number 2. And we've got rook takes c2 because we're taking something. Rook takes c2 check. We'll call that number 3. One of those, and this is how you guys need to come up with the best moves, is one of those moves are correct. Okay, so one of them is your solution. The question is which one, and this is how you want to be thinking about things when you're at the chessboard. You're like, okay, well, I've got a few options. Which one is the best option? I guess pawn takes pawn is also a pretty good move. I like that move because you're getting right in there. You know, the pawn is making some progress. You're attacking the rook. You're also then supporting this rook move next, which is going to be very nifty. However, it's not check, so it can't be checkmate. We know that's not the correct solution. Okay, let's move on. We had the correct answer already. Rook takes c2 was the move. Well spotted. It's checking the king. Let's see if it ticks all the boxes. He can't go here. He can't go here, and he can't go here because the rook is covering the b file. So that's all sorted. Fantastic. He's in check. He cannot escape the check. He has been checkmated. This is great stuff. Nice and easy. I think we'll do the same thing. Very important to work on our defensive resources, our defensive skills. So let's just make a sort of nothing move for black. So we know now black is still threatening the mate. Let's find a defensive move that white can play to prevent rook takes c2, which is this move. We don't want to get mated, of course not. There must be a couple ways to solve this problem. See what you guys can come up with. Rook d2 has been suggested. I like it. I like it. Rook d2 does seem like it does the job, guys. He blocks the attack coming to c2. That's a good move. Anything else that you guys can think of that might do the job? I know I'm looking at 2 very good moves that are a little bit different to that sort of stand out for me. Rook dt, rook takes d3. So there we go. Nice, nice, nice. Thank you, Tyron. Good stuff, man. Just quickly, I'm going to type this into the Lichess chat. So for those of you who are watching on the Zoom sharing, you should be able to see that. So guys, remember when we talk notation, so it's rook, it's R for rook, takes or multiplication or X, as I've done here, means takes the piece, and then the square is D3. Remember, this is D3, wherever the letter and the number meet together. So for instance, this would be F5. This would be G2. And this would be B8. So we've got 8B. Okay, so this would be rook takes D3. Thank you, Tyron. Well done. Well done. I like that move. Probably my favorite move of the lot. Because that just solves that problem. Then this square is taken care of because he's got no backup. So I just take this, then there's no mate. So of course I'm very happy if they want to take this now, then I just simply take back. And I've won a rook for a pawn, which is very positive if you're playing with the white pieces. All right, fantastic. And the other move was pawn takes D3, just removing this support pawn for black. That does the job. And then we had Rico's rook D2, which is perfectly satisfactory. That does the job, stops the mate. That's what we wanted to do. We needed to stop the mate. We needed to survive. And this does that. Maybe rook takes, king takes, pawn takes. White's able to take again, and it seems like black will be able to finish the job with king and rook. A little bit challenging. All right, that's cool. G7. Here's G7 with the king. Let's move on, guys. Nicely done. Black to play, mate in one. Let's go. Let's solve this one quick. Still got quite a few things on our agenda. So let's try and solve this one quick. And then we'll move on to the using the rook. And then we want to defend a little bit of fried liver. Talk about that in just a moment. Rook H2, looking good, looking good. No, that's not a move, Tyron. I don't know what that is. Ilo. Yeah, so let's see what we got here. No problem, no problem. Excuse me. Okay, so like we said, we've got quite a bit to get through here, so let's just get through this one. Rook H2, it's check. The king cannot take the rook because the bishop is defending. I think that's the most important thing I always like to investigate whenever I'm checking these moves out. Because obviously you don't want to lose a rook, you don't want to lose a queen, you don't want to lose anything really. So as long as that piece is defended, if it does turn out that it's not mate, it's not the end of the world, as long as they're not just going to take your piece for free, because that'll backfire, and we don't want that to happen. So that's cool. And then I think from a defensive perspective, if it were white to move here, I would probably just go rook G2, and that way the rook is able to defend the H2 square. So guys, for those of you who don't know the squares or the notation, I think I'll do a video on that, just making sure that everybody understands, because I think maybe there might be a little bit of confusion regarding that. I know we've done it in lessons in the past, but it might be a good idea for me to do a video on that, and then just talk about notation and how that works. So when I say rook takes G3, for instance, that everybody kind of knows what we're talking about. All right, so that's cool. Let's move on. Using the rook. All right, guys, so we know the points, but just to recap, I'll touch on the points that are on the board here. So the pawn is 1 point and the rook is 5 points. So a lot of the time, I will ask you guys, I'll look at a position, I'll say who's winning and by how much. So that's a very valid and useful skill that you guys need to master. So you can practice it just about any chess game that you play. Maybe you're watching a friend of yours play a game of chess and you're like, hey, let's see what's going on that board. And then you just sort of calculate or count the points, and then you can see who's winning and by how much. So if black has 5 pawns, that means they have 5 points. Okay, that makes sense. Yes. If black has white, sorry, has 2 pawns. They got 2 points. So we got 5 against 2. Oof. All right. That's a little bit tricky, but white also has a rook. So white's got 5, 6, 7. 7 minus, how many did we say here? 5. 7 minus 5 equals 2. A little bit of maths, nothing too strenuous. Some light arithmetic for you guys. So you can see, okay, white is so far is winning by 2 points, 2 pawns. Okay, we know the rook is very powerful, second most powerful piece on the board, second to the queen, who's the most powerful. And we're going to use this rook to gobble up some pawns and win this game nice and easy with the white pieces. So firstly, we need to find a target. And this little c7 pawn right here, see again, c7, he's looking quite vulnerable. He's not protected. All these other pawns are defended by something or someone, with the exception of our little pawn on c7. So I immediately go rook c1 with the intention of, with the plan, I just want to take that pawn. That's my goal. That's my plan. So let's say black tries this move. I think it's a good move because at least he's going to try and get rid of my pawn over here. So I'm going to take him. He's going to take me. Makes sense. And now we at least winning that pawn like we wanted to. So we've managed to win a further pawn, and it's looking good. It's looking good. Now, how are we going to win this game? Well, we're going to need to use our king and our rook, gobble up these pawns, and then hopefully we can promote this pawn and finish the job. Let's see how that goes. So it looks like it's black's move here. He's going to march the pawns. We're going to get our king into the game. Remember, in the end game, when there's just king and pawn left, the king becomes a very useful piece. So this pawn is defended by this pawn. This pawn is defended by this pawn as well. So this guy over here on g6 becomes our target. So I'm going to actually just put the rook here and keep an eye on my target. At the same time, the rook prevents the black king from coming into the position, which I'm quite happy about. So let's say king here. So now I'm going to say, all right, I need to get my king to target this g6 square. And there's a number of ways that I can do that. We want to try and get the king at that pawn as quickly as possible. So like king here, maybe king here. That seems like a quick and easy way. And then I will attack that pawn one more time. I suppose you could go king here, king here. You could also go king h4 and then to g5. Just notice I'm like dodging the light squares because I can't go to this square because the pawns are covering that square. And we know that the king cannot move into check. So I'm just going to go here. Here. I'm going to go here. Let's try and push this pawn as black. He's got to try and do something, although we can see that that's not going to help a great deal. The king now attacks this pawn and supports the attack on this g6 square, which is really, really difficult now for black to do anything. Let's say he tries h3, maybe tries to catch us sleeping. You see, he's 2 squares away from promoting, but it seems quite easy. We can just simply take that pawn. We're not in any rush. You know, we can take this pawn next, then we'll take this pawn. Should be quite easy. Rook takes g6. Now f4. Now this is a bit of a sneaky move from black because what he's hoping for is he's thinking if white goes king takes f4, then black will just go king takes g6. And what will happen is then I'm just dropping the rook. And then it's like I'm losing 5 points for 1 point, which is a really bad idea. So, but luckily for me, I've got this rook move, and the rook will cover this. I get the rook to safety, and then the next move, I'm just going to scoop up this pawn. So we've used our big pieces to successfully take a few pawns. Now we're just going to promote this little pawn on h3, nice and easy, and that will allow us to get a queen. I think, so we go check just to get that king out of there. You see, I just marched the pawn up the board. I knew it was protected by the king on these squares, so I was in no real danger. Let's move this rook away. He wants to take my rook. I can probably just move it all the way here. I realize now that maybe king is even better move. Guys, as always, just when it comes to this final part, when it comes to checkmating the king, just make sure that the enemy king or the opposition king has a square. Remember, we talked about stalemate. We're going to touch on it again now. So king h8, what is stalemate? Stalemate means that the king can't move anywhere, or that they have no moves, but they're also not in check. So we'll talk about an example of stalemate here now. For instance, pushing the pawn. That's good. Okay, pushing the pawn covers the square. Well, I said it's good. It's not really that good. It's good for a stalemate example, but it's not a good move for white at all, because now it's stalemate. And guys, remember, the result of stalemate is that it's a draw. This means it's a tie. Like, we share the point here, which is, of course, not good news for white, who was probably one move away from checkmating black, which is very disappointing. So he was right. He was kind of like just about to cross the finishing line, and it's almost like tripping just before that and sort of messing it up, you know. So we have to be very careful right at the end that we keep our concentration there and we don't stalemate the opponent. This would also be an example of stalemate. Again, the king has no moves, but it's not check. There is no check. Without a check, it cannot be checkmate. So we'll look at the difference now. If white just plays rook f8, he's checking the king. That's the most crucial part. It's check. Can't go here. He can't go here. He can't go here. There is no escape for this black king. He has been mated. He has been checkmated. Okay, that was a nice example of using the rook in an endgame situation. Like I said, what the cool thing about this being in video format is you guys always have the ability to go back and review it. You can go through it slowly if there were certain areas that didn't quite make sense for you. Let's move on. So I think about a couple of months ago, I did a video on the fried liver attack, which is quite an aggressive attack for white in the king's pawn opening. And today I'm just going to touch on some useful ways for black to defend against this attack. So king's pawn opening, we know our opening rules, guys. Pawns in the center, develop your pieces, castle your king. Those are the three golden opening rules. Very important to remember those and apply those in every single game of chess that you play. So e5, normal stuff. Pawns in the center, following our rules. Knight f3, attacking the pawn. Knight c6, defending the pawn. All good. Bishop c4, normal stuff. Now, I have recommended in the past that you just play bishop c5 here, and that avoids the fried liver. Remember, the fried liver is going knight g5 and pressuring this f7 square, which can be quite challenging or quite difficult to defend in the start. So, of course, if they just go knight g5 now, you just help yourself to that knight, and, well, they just dropped a free knight, which is not very good. So bishop c5 if you're playing black in a normal king's pawn opening. Fried liver comes about when black plays knight f6 on move 3, which now allows knight g5. See, I've blocked the line of the queen. The queen can't get to the knight because my knight's in the way, which is a bit of a snag. It's not really the greatest news for black, but okay, there's a bigger problem at hand, and that is that the knight's going to take f7 and fork my queen and my rook. So if I just play like a normal move, d6 or bishop c5, for instance, the white knight's going to take. And the problem here is that they're attacking both pieces at the same time. So if I move the rook, I lose the queen. If I move the queen, which is obviously the better one to move, I'm going to lose the rook. Of course, I don't want to lose my queen. It's the most valuable piece. I definitely don't want to do that. So the key move here that you need to play in order to stop these two pieces working together on this square is d5. So now if they go knight takes pawn, you can simply just go king takes because the bishop is no longer supporting this f7 square. I've broken the link between the bishop and the knight with this d5 pawn. Pawn takes pawn, or e takes d. Now there is knight takes d5, which is okay. It's probably not the best move for black, because then there's some, it's a bit complicated for today's discussion, but there's some, let's call them interesting ideas that white can play if black goes knight takes d5. Instead, the move I want to show you guys is knight a5, which is a little bit, it's a little bit different. A lot of the time, moving the knight on the edge of the board is not always a good idea. But here you're going to put a little bit of pressure on this bishop on c4. And maybe if your opponent's not paying attention, you can just grab this one up nice and easily. Alternatively, they try to move the bishop back and keep this diagonal alive. Then I'm still just going to take that bishop. And then I can go knight takes d5. The good thing now is that I open the line and I'm threatening this knight again. I would say a good move for white would be something like d3, which opens the line for his bishop to defend the knight on g5. Okay. Guys, just to touch on opening stuff here, the most important thing for you guys to remember is to bring your pieces into the game as quickly as possible. Don't waste time. Don't waste moves. Get the pieces into the game as fast as you can. And then as soon as they're in the game, you can start to attack your opponent. Okay, so you guys can use these ideas for both white and black. If you get the opportunity to do this with the white pieces, this is always a useful one. And then likewise, if you're playing with the black pieces here, probably just play bishop to c5 to prevent the knight going to g5. Guys, I'd like you to spend the next half an hour playing on Lichess. I will be online. I will be watching you guys. Just go to the main menu. If you're looking for a game, you just click on the main menu, which is this big lichess.org, and probably click on the 15-minute. I think 15-minute is the sweet spot time control. It's a little bit slow, but at the same time, it's not going to drag on for hours. So you just click this. I won't click it now because then it will take me to a game instantly. Once you just click that, it'll find an opponent for you within 30 seconds, and you can play a chess game straight there and then. Okay, let's use the next half an hour or so. It's normal chess time to practice our chess, guys. Also, I want you to try and find a bit of additional time to practice chess during the course of the week. Okay, practice makes perfect, and if you want to improve your skills in anything, no matter what it is, you need to put in a little bit of time and effort into that sport or whatever it might be. Guys, thank you for your attendance and your participation for today's lesson. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, bye-bye.